This is the Classic Auto Mall Show. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298. Featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stuart Howden.
I feel like this would be show number 203. Is that correct?
I believe so.
I have 145 on my sheet. 203 it is.
You know, I saw on YouTube that we have 1,300. It's crazy. 1,300 and some odd video. 1,387 videos.
That's
on
right.
YouTube at 48,983 subscribers.
Ooh, so close.
And 1.9 million views.
We'll be at 50,000 by the weekend.
I think we will. We'll have to do a celebratory shot of something.
Woohoo!
Or by today. I should say by today because we're airing on Saturday.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, by today it will already be done. So we'll be in the past tense. How many cars in inventory, Steve? Porsche reference, by the way.
Another Porsche reference.
Yeah.
928, 935, 968. I'm going to go 968.
JR?
No. I wanted that. 944.
928.
Oh.
That's how many cars we have in inventory right this moment.
I feel like a lot has come in the last couple of weeks.
Quite busy. We had 12 new consignments yesterday. So anyway, show number 203 is as said, and joining us today via Zoom, Kip Wasenko, former GM designer, Cadillac designer, specialty designer. You've done a little bit of every kind of design work, haven't you?
Well, it was a fun career. I was there for 40 years.
Oh, my
Started
God.
in 68 and retired in 2008.
You started as an intern, right?
I did. I got invited to be, as a senior design student, I got invited to the summer intern program at General Motors. And I took advantage of that. The car that I designed was this outrageous mid-engine, two-passenger mid-engine Tabo-Lago-inspired aerodynamic vehicle that basically came back to a vertical fin, even though it was a four-wheel car. That it was tucked in.
Right.
And Bill Mitchell saw it at the end. He was the vice president of design, and he said, well, are you done with college yet? And I said, well, I have 2 more classes, and then I'm going to go to Art Center. And he said, what are you going to do that for? So to become a better designer. He said, you're hired. So it'd be about $400,000 so I started, I got hired as a result of being a summer intern.
Wow.
In 1968.
And that probably wasn't always a clear path to getting to being hired as a designer, right? I mean, just because you're an intern doesn't mean you automatically get a job there.
I was the only one, actually, that got an invitation or an offer to work. And I went back and I finished my last 3 classes and then started General Motors. But no, I most of the designers at that time were graduates of Art Center. And that was my plan, because that was by far at that time the best transportation design school, certainly in this country. And I would say around the world. I know that, they had the Royal Academy in England, which produced a lot of successful designers. But Art Center was the place to go to. But as you can imagine, it was incredibly expensive. So it saved me a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think he saw something in you that he thought maybe by going to an art school, it may have derailed you a little bit from where you were going?
No, I don't think so. I think he felt, as a designer, I was ready. I was always a car guy.
Right.
I started as a kid because my uncle was really one of the designers of the Motorama shows that GM had in the early 50s. So he'd bring me these brochures and I'd draw. And even in grade school, my books had cars in the back. So, I learned how to draw at a very, very early age. And then, of course, I started building models and putting my own designs on those. So I was kind of a practicing designer. But the good news was when I studied industrial design and fine arts at Wayne, and then I was a senior.
Right.
Lucky for me, 2 of the instructors were designers at GM, and they identified me as quote, a talent. That's why I got invited. But I was the car that was probably the most outrageous.
Right.
And thinking out of the box, and the one that Bill liked the best, and so therefore I was the only one that got hired. But I don't think he felt that it would derail me, because I certainly would have become a better artist. But when you're exposed to designers that were the best, like I was. Once I got started, you learn a lot of the techniques. Because, back then it was all analog. It wasn't computer like it is today.
Sure.
We had to sketch, pen and paper and markers and that. So the techniques that I learned, not only from being an intern, but once I started, but again, I'd been drawing since I was 5, 6 years old.
Sure.
So I knew how to draw cars.
Sure. And
it really got better.
and getting a car right, I mean, obviously, proportionally, it has to work. We've all seen people who draw cars who they're too stubby, they're too long, they're too wide, they don't have the right proportions. That must be is that the tricky part, or?
Well, it is to a degree, because when I look back at some of my sketches, and I don't have any, I was told you couldn't take them, right?
Oh, wow.
Recently, Ed Welburn asked GM to send me a few of mine, and they're going to print them for me. But I was always told you can't take this home.
Right.
But the designers, like myself and all the hotshot colleagues that I had, we always cheat our sketches a little bit. They're a little bit exaggerated, if you will, to communicate that theme. And of course, once somebody, design leadership, responds to a sketch that's on a wall, then you start getting the proportions closer to reality. But even when you do a small clay model, they're often cheated. We call it cheated, but they're somewhat exaggerated to communicate the theme. But then they have to be adjusted when you go full size.
Sure.
And yet it's an excellent point you made, because the proportions of a design are so incredibly important.
Right.
So, you have to be very aware. Now, today, the new designers are sketching in the tube, and they're still cheating a lot too. But the difference is, I think, that the old school, when we did our renderings, we really had to render the theme so that the sculptors and the leadership could really visualize the form. And looking at that photo behind you, the Cobra is a good example. You can really see the form of that Cobra as though that were a sketch. I know it's a photo, but you try to make it look as realistic as possible.
Sure. Well, if you look at that Cobra, just for example, the angle is an unusual angle that you would see most cars from, at that kind of side, not a 3/4, not a front on, but it certainly gives you the bulbous view of the rear fenders and the front fenders. It's you can appreciate what that car looks like, even if you just saw that little part right there.
Exactly. And when we would do our sketches, we would pick a view, using that as an example, that accentuated the dramatic part of the particular design that we were doing.
Right.
It's great to have that in the background, because that really helps me communicate what I'm talking about.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting. I have a Mercedes CL55 coupe, and the best angle of it is the rear 3/4 view as opposed to the front 3/4 view, because it's got a bulbous windshield, and it's just it's just something about that rear view that looks better than the front view, which is surprising for an automobile.
And it's interesting you say that, because, as a designer, of course, we're all critical of design. And it's interesting when I hear other people that maybe weren't designers, but they'll zero in, I like the rear, but I don't like the front. And where I used to see that a lot was we would do these focus groups on any new design that we're doing, because we're designing cars for 3-4 years in advance.
Right.
And I would go to every focus group and listen. And I'm going to categorically say you never design a car based on the focus group. But you listen to what they say. If there's certain things about it they don't like, and they don't like it a lot, you should pay attention. If there's certain things, what I always look for was if they said, I really wasn't sure about that design. It's a little different. It's a little far out. But I have to admit, the more I look at it, the more I like it. That's the right answer.
Right.
Because if they love it, and then they say, it looks like my neighbor's new Lexus, for example, that's not good, because 4 years from now, that Lexus is going to look different, and the cars in the marketplace are going to look different. It's interesting how even people who aren't designers can focus in and say, I like that rear, but that front doesn't go with it. And that goes right back to your original comment about how important the proportions and the harmony of the design. And of course, the front's never going to look like the rear because they're different. There's a different function.
Sure.
But the car has to be in a harmonious design where the front looks like it goes with the rear.
Right. Some connection, right?
Exactly.
Well, the analogy I always use, which is interesting, is that when I read my guys who write descriptions on these cars about, let's say, a 77 Corvette, and I remember growing up looking at a 77 Corvette, knowing that it's underpowered, knowing that it's not a Corvette of yore, and looking and going, that thing. But when I look at it from a viewpoint of just from a styling point of what it looks like, what it really looks like, the stop and it's a beautiful car. And I never looked at it that way until I would read my writer's descriptions of, the 77 Corvette and the lines and this and that. And it's amazing.
Yeah. That, I love the 63 because of the split window. And that was pure Bill Mitchell.
Yeah.
And he got overridden by function by Zora when they took the split out of it. And as you know, you compare a fully restored 63 split window with a 64 where the only difference is they took the post out. They're worth half of what a split window. So the styling of a car, and I'm saying this because I was a stylist, designer, we believe and always believe that was once you get the function and the performance and the fuel economy and all the requirements, gets down to the styling, and that's assuming the reliability, and that is equivalent to anything on the market. Sure. But I always say that if you own a car and you no longer turn your back and look at it in the garage, that's a clue that design isn't quite there yet.
Yeah, 100%.
I judge all these shows, like I do with Judy.
Right.
I've been judging these classic car shows since the Meadowbrook days, where Dave Holes was one of the design executives. He created Meadowbrook and invited me to judge. So I've been judging classic car shows for the last 45 years. But what I like judging are Concours d'Elegance, which in most cases the cars are restored original. They're authentic. Gets down to the design, the elegance factor, the provenance of the car. But most people will say, I bought this car, and when I leave it in the garage, I turn back and I look at it. That is a significant design.
Right.
That's what it's all about. Right?
Absolutely. And people, what do you say to people who say all cars look the same today?
I get that a lot. And I say that is, I'll say, the responsibility of the design leadership of that particular brand or that particular company. And let me give you an example. When I started General Motors in 1968 and 69, and I was just a young punk designer, learning how to design cars, you were not allowed to go into the competitive studio. My first studio was Advanced Buick under Jerry Hertzberg. He had just finished the Boattail Riviera, so I had nothing to do with it, but I was a little bit, oh my God, this thing is huge. One day I casually walked into Cadillac and immediately was thrown out by the chief designer. Bill Mitchell, I think, did a fabulous job, and he is my ultimate hero.
Right. Not
because he hired me, but it was his designs that made me want to be a designer for GM. Right. He took over at GM Design in 1959, and you saw a dramatic design difference between the pre-Harley Earl days to the new Bill Mitchells.
Sure.
But Bill, when you look at the cars that were done under Bill's leadership, a Riviera, even though it shared a lot of components, it was completely different than a Tornado, which looks completely different than an Eldorado, even though they shared platforms and stuff. Bill made sure the designers in Chevy didn't know what the heck they were doing in Pontiac. The designers at Ford, of course, we didn't invite them in, but Bill did a better job of policing and managing that you stayed in your own, I'll call it, brand identity lane.
Sure. The
heritage lane, because I'm really big on heritage design. That doesn't mean retro, but a Ferrari has to look like a Ferrari. It shouldn't look like a Porsche. Porsche does a really good job making them look like Porsches.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the problem is a lot of designers, whether it be at GM or not so much GM, because I think the cars are still pretty different from one another. But I think in general terms, particularly with a lot of startup companies over, let's say, the last 20 years that didn't have a real heritage that you were building on, they gravitate to picking the coolest thing that's regardless of whether it was their brand or somebody else.
Didn't matter, right?
Because I don't think really you can blame it. And a lot of people have been saying, well, aerodynamics makes it look the same. No, it doesn't. There's a zillion different solutions in aerodynamics. I really blame the design leadership of a particular organization if their cars look too much like somebody else's.
Right. Yeah, because it's easy to copy somebody. It's harder to be unique in this space, right? Well, and you look at cars like Cadillacs in the 60s. I mean, one of my favorite cars is the 67 Eldorado. I think that is
mine too.
I love that car. That is the cool, and it's not, I don't know, it's not swoopy, it's kind of angular, but it's just really cool. And I think part of my liking it is the fact that it had a big badass motor in it, went to 500 cubic inches in 1970, which is crazy.
Well, it's interesting you bring that car up because I'll just briefly cover why I ended up in Cadillac. I was in the advanced area at the time. I just come back from Australia as assistant director of Holden's. I'd been to Europe. I got kind of Euroized with my design philosophy. So when I got promoted to chief designer of Advanced Buick Studio, I did the Buick mid-engine Wildcat.
Wow, yeah.
We productionized the Riata that my assistant, Dave McIntosh, came up with that design under Dave North. They put it away, and I brought it back out, proposed it again. But Chuck Jordan says, Kip, you've had a lot of interest in Cadillac because you're born and raised in Detroit. Where do you think Cadillac should go? Well, I put together a presentation, which, quite frankly, I wasn't real popular with Cadillac division, basically alerting them to that while Cadillac was the standard of the world, in design and engineering and prestige, let's say through the 50s and 60s. And as I said, some of Bill Mitchell's 60s were the best.
Sure.
I kind of said that you guys really, as a division, need to refocus. All your cars are at the same buyer that, unfortunately, we're leaving the market for obvious reasons. The new definition of performance and luxury is coming out of Europe. And I showed them how the Europeans were the cars that a lot of these new buyers were after, BMW, Porsche, and the connection was racing.
Right.
So I said, really, you should be racing like the Europeans. So several years later, I got called up by Wayne Cherry to do a concept car for Pebble Beach. And he says, you've been making a big stink over the years about what you think Cadillac should be. I want you to do a concept car. And he said, I said, what do you want me to do? He said, what do you want to do? I said, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to do a high-performance luxury touring car built on the Corvette chassis, because we don't have a better chassis than the Corvette.
Sure.
But it's not to be a replacement for the Corvette. It's supposed to go after Mercedes, SLs, Jaguar convertibles, etc. So I did. That car became known as the Cadillac Evoque. And to your comment about the 67, I designed the Cadillac Evoque based on what I learned from Bill Mitchell.
Right.
First of all, the 67 Eldorado was my favorite. And when I got hired in 68, I mentioned that to Bill Mitchell. And he said, well, what do you like about it? I said, well, I love the thin fin in the back. I like the cleanliness of the design. It's very edgy. And he says, and he stopped me. He says, edginess. And here's the metaphor Bill used with me. He said, the edginess is definitely part of Cadillac's history.
Right.
And he said, the edginess is like a freshly pressed tuxedo. It's a symbol of elegance. So when I did the Evoque, I was doing it to, again, try to have the heritage of Cadillac. The very thin blade tail lamps was to the 67 Eldorado.
Right.
Great grill. The edginess, because personally, and I got quoted in a German magazine, the guy couldn't figure out how the designer of the Cadillac Evoque can love Ferraris with their sensual soft fluid.
Sure.
And I told the writer, I said, it's because it's a human body, but I'm designing the Evoque at what I think Cadillac should be, and the edginess and that. And of course, as you know, the Evoque set the new art and science direction for Cadillac styling that continued for the next 20-some years. Now, recently, they're breaking away, of course, which they should.
Sure.
But they evolved that art and science edgy design that came from the Cadillac Evoque.
Right.
But the Eldorado 67 was one of the most inspirational cars when I was designing.
Yeah, it's funny how I gravitated towards that. I was a kid. My grandfather had one down in Naples, Florida, back in 67 and 68 time frame, and it was just something about that car that got my attention. And of course, the Evoque became the XLRV. Is that kind of what?
Exactly. Right. And I designed that one too. You know that because that was as you know a higher performance version. The supercharged North Star had the big brakes when I did the XLRV, you know, it's a little bit more aggressive because of the hood, the wire mesh grille, the larger intake, the bigger wheels and tires, but it's I'll call it subtle. It's not overtly aggressive.
Right.
And honestly, what's rewarding to me is when people like Ed Welburn or several people that I respect tell me how the car, even though I designed the Evoque in '98 and it won the International Design Award, not only at the Detroit Auto Show in '99, but in Italy, in Le Mans. Not Le Mans, in Milan.
Right.
I was pleased that my colleagues from the design organizations around the world, because most styling guys all know each other because it's a much smaller group than engineers. Not only did it win the award of Best Concept Car, the design was applauded by a lot of, I'll say, my design colleagues around the world. And they weren't doing it because of me. They were doing it because of the car.
Sure. Well, I think it's one of those cars that, you know, like you said, kind of going after the SL. I mean, if you think about everybody's definition of success is that one of the components was that your wife drove a five whatever SL Mercedes, 450, 560, 500, whatever. That was all. That was kind of the showing everybody in town that you'd made it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
fun.
Yeah. And Cadillac has always been, you know, where I grew up. The funny thing about where I grew up in East Tennessee, Cadillac was what the middle class people drove, and the Buicks and the Oldsmobiles were the ones that the rich guys drove, because the rich guys didn't want you to know how much money they had, and the middle class guys wanted you to think how much money they had.
You know, that's a really interesting thing, because those of us at Cadillac, and I think the people still at Cadillac, thought that the Cadillac was the top of the food chain, if you will.
Sure.
And it certainly is within the corporate hierarchy, even right up to today. But again, it's that perception. Mm-hmm. And that's why, again, at the expense of not being real popular at the time, I alerted them that the perception of Cadillac was an old person's car, because the new people want high performance cars.
Exactly. Yeah, BMW and Mercedes and Porsche were appealing to the younger generation because of the performance and because they were, you know, tight handling and all of that stuff, which Cadillac was not known for at the time.
Well, that quite frankly, that's what was interesting, because once we did the Evoque, John Smith was the head of Cadillac division. He had just come back from Europe, and secretly, John Smith and I met with Herb Fischel, and I designed the Le Mans car.
Right,
alerting the world that Cadillac's not going to be just a country club boat. It's going to be a serious car. We did it for 3 years, and unfortunately, on the plane flying back, John Smith said they were cutting the funds, because I don't think the corporation realized how much money it took to race them off. But I said, realistically, we should race what we sell. And at that time, I was doing the very first B Series as a line of performance cars. So we raced the CTSV that I designed with Pratt Miller. But the point being is they stuck with the CTSV because it appealed to a much younger, high-performance-oriented buyer. And I would venture to say, and I had nothing to do with the current Blackwing CTSV, other than they carried on with the performance thing. But that car gets a lot of cred, a lot of credibility. Mm-hmm. And what really delights me is when I go to shows and I see that how young the buyers are, younger than me, obviously, on the B Series. So that whole transition from Evoque to racing Le Mans to Speed Vision really helped Cadillac, and thank God they continued with that as a philosophy. to a much more high performance car, gaining much younger buyers.
Yeah, which is ultimately what you better do, because otherwise you're going to be out of business. You're going to be, unfortunately, and there's so many that we've lost that you hate to see gone. And Pontiac being gone, we all mourned that. It was one of those. And my mother loved Pontiac, especially navy blue. My mother said that navy blue on a car is the most elegant color you can possibly have. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that was her opinion and philosophy.
Yeah, when I was after Cadillac, they had me in charge of specialty vehicles, when race cars and that, and I would do all the cars, special cars for SEMA. And that sort of
fun!
Thing. But the one thing I really tried to do was, I did a GTO for Dream Cruise that Ken Lingenfelter has, big wide body thing, and but I tried like heck to save the GTO and the Firebird. In fact, I did one. In '88, that was really cool. It was called the GTO, but it was based on an all-new platform. It was all-wheel drive.
Right.
It was 450 horsepower. It's about 1,000 pounds lighter. Significantly smaller than the 91 F cars, but they couldn't afford it. It was tearing up everything. But they put the front end on that. But then later, when I was doing specialty vehicles, the Camaro had come out, and we did a series of scale models that were mildly different than a Camaro, which is what Firebirds really started off as. But radically different, because I always, even though I never got the opportunity to work in Pontiac studio, I always loved Pontiacs, because they were the ones that they had the GTO that I credit the 64 GTO with starting the muscle car era, although others would probably argue against that. But they always did cool stuff. They did the first rubber front end, and I always liked Pontiac. And to the point where right before I left for Australia, I had a 71 455 HO Trans Am, white one with blue stripes. And I had my Dino at the time, and Chuck Jordan said, since they were sending me to Australia for, at that time, 5 years, we're only going to store one car, Kip. The other one's got to go. Well, they stored my Dino that I've owned, and I still own, since 1975.
Wow.
But I always missed that Trans Am that I had.
What's funny, I was with the day that Judy said that you were going to be on the show with us, I was dinking around in my office, and I found Motor Trend, 1973, the two-rotor. But the front of it, I would argue with the guys, it almost looks like a 79 Trans Am with the four rectangular headlights and the Endura-type bumper.
It could have been. I designed that car in 1972, and when I went to Opel in 73, GM decided to show it, and they were sending, and that's the first design patent I ever got.
Wow.
On that one. And as luck would have it, they unveiled it at the 1973 Frankfurt International Auto Show. And because I was at Opel at the time, they put me on stage and let me talk about it. What was interesting, and you talked about it at the beginning of your show, the people that loved the little two-rotor Corvette, because it was never intended to replace the Corvette. It was to be like the Dino, which I own. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was one of the competitive cars when I was designing it.
Sure.
The Corvette, the mid-engine small to the fire-breathing V8. The guys that were most excited at Frankfurt were the German designers.
Wow.
They came up to me, oh, that's so cool. You're a young designer. You did this, blah, blah, blah. And when you can take a look at that two-rotor again, knowing that it was shown in 73, when did they bring out the 928?
Yeah.
Okay, 928's front engine, but the side window graphics.
Exactly.
There's some similarity.
Yeah, sure. And, that's you're not mad about it, right? It's a compliment, right?
Oh, yeah. Let's face it, we're all influenced by the world around us. And I'll be the first to say I've been influenced a lot by Ferrari, my personal design taste. Sure. But again, doing the Evoque, I was trying to design a Cadillac, not do a Cadillac Ferrari.
Right, exactly. Well, you did kind of venture into the supercar, hypercar world, obviously with the Wildcat Buick, but also with the project with the joint project with Lotus, the M800, was it?
Yeah, that one. Oh my God, that was like Chuck Jordan put me in the advanced area again because I was strong in advanced design, and I was so delighted. Lotus had just worked with GM on the ZR1 Corvette.
Right.
engine, 4-cam engine. And I think it was Michael Kimberly from Lotus at the time. I actually did 5 proposals, but there was one that I did that was my favorite, and that was his too. It was a yellow model.
Right.
Unfortunately, they found out that doing a mid-engine V8 Lotus, I guess it had to do with funds, didn't know if they were ready to get into the quote supercar market at that time. But no, I started off with the summer program intern car was mid-engine. Right. The Tourer Corvette was mid-engine. The Wildcat was mid-engine, and the Lotus were mid-engine. And I worked on the 4-rotor, which is the sketch that Tom Semple did. Tom Semple and I were designers working on the 4-rotor, but Bill Mitchell, I believe, personally designed that car because we were in a special studio working under Bill Mitchell. Right. And there were a couple things like the louver quarter glass and the pointed windshield by my sketch, but honestly, to me, the 4-rotor is 100% a Bill Mitchell design. Sure. And to this day, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's held up very well, and not all cars can say that. I like, for example, for me, I love the '77 Cadillac Seville. I love that body style.
Oh, me too.
I always wanted to make a resto mod before I even knew what resto mods were of that car. I just thought that car was some beefier wheels and tires and a little bit performance this, and that could have been really something special. It was a good looking, elegant car.
I felt that way too, and what I really liked about it was how clean the body side was, and that snotty vertical backlight, because we were all drawing those back then. It was a form of elegance. But the combination, and people used to badmouth it, oh, it's a Nova. No, it's not a Nova, it's a Seville. and I think you're exactly right. 800 horsepower LS power, turbocharged.
Yes.
77 Seville with an LS and 20-inch wheels would be an amazing resto box.
I'm going to build one of these days, and when I do, I'll send you a picture of it. So, and I also learned just yesterday that you've got a nice honor coming up at the French-American Consulate Garden Party at Meadow Brook.
I'm excited about that. That's a week from tomorrow.
Wow.
Because the theme is design and racing.
Sure.
And I've been designing. In fact, I'm designing this weekend. I have to keep that car in one piece because they want my race car on display. But GM is, even though I'm retired, they've been very, very generous. They're going to bring the Evoque to the show. They're going to bring the Le Mans car that I designed. They're going to bring the CTSV.
Awesome.
R that I designed. It's kind of cool. It was kind of neat. And I'm going to be on stage with Gary Negotian from Multimatic, who worked on the Ford GT. I think the Ford Motorsports guy, but I'm the lucky one that's getting honor because I'm the old guy. Right?
Well, that's a good thing about being the old guy, right? So, and also an honored judge at Radnor Hunt this year, which I'm on the board of, and we're honored to have you as our honored judge coming up in September.
We love that show. As you know, I've judged it before, and become good friends with Mike Tillison and Susan. But I love that show. In fact, it's really cool. We enjoyed the hunt on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun, isn't it? Yeah, it's an unusual setting for a Concours, and what makes it unique and what we like about it, and hopefully it will continue on for many, many years to come. They're not easy to do, but they're very rewarding when you do them and you do them well.
Yeah, I've been lucky. Like I said, I started judging in the Meadowbrook days in the mid-'80s, and I judged the majority of them around the U.S. And what's really cool is, even though I'm not designing today, I'm racing, but I'm not designing. Right. When I judge these shows, the cars are so good, it's really getting down to an analysis of the design. Right. Once you score them for authenticity and quality, condition, and that it gets down to design. But the most exciting thing for me about judging these over the years is really getting to know these owners, and you build a circle of friends.
Sure, yeah.
And then the common denominator is we all love cars.
Yeah, but like you said, to your point, you get 10 Duesenbergs in a row, and they're all perfect. How do you decide which one is the best of the best? I mean, it's got to be somewhat subjective, right?
Yeah. And it gets down to exactly what you said about turning back and look at it. I always ask myself when I'm judging these shows, after I've scored everything, which one of that circle would I like to take home, because I can't sell it. It's got nothing to do with the value. It has to do with how much does that car appeal to me, or how much does it rock me? How much does it make me want to turn around and look at it again?
Yeah.
And of course, as the shows get better and better, the selections are harder and harder.
I mean, we're going to Pebble Beach this year for the first time, so we're excited. But, they say it's overload. I mean, you're just going to see one amazingly nice car after another. It's easy to just kind of get lost in the fray.
And what's cool about Pebble Beach is, for me, when I say Pebble Beach, to me, it's not just the show on Sunday. Right. It's all the activities, the Concours Italiano shows, the shows that they have at the, at other locations.
Sure.
And for me, of course, the vintage racing that we're going to see.
I'm so looking forward to that. And they're honoring Formula One this year. And and there's going to be like 25 vintage Formula One cars on the track and 30 on display. And I'm so excited. My wife is like, are we going to have to get up at 4:30 every morning when we're out there? Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's 7:30 here, so don't worry about it.
And the one that you need to do, and everybody does it, the morning of Pebble Beach. Yeah. You want to be there for the parade of cars going on the field with their headlights on, and it's dark.
Cup of coffee.
But it's just cool. Yeah. I mean, that's as much a part of it.
Well, we hope to run into you out there this year and see you there, and we can certainly do this all day. I have pages and pages of stuff to talk about, but I'd love to have you on again someday, and we can continue the conversation.
I'd be delighted. This has been fun.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear, and glad we were able to line up the schedules. Everyone, we'll be back with the Classic Auto Mall show in just a minute.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Another fantastic guest. Wow. If you don't know who Kip Wasenko is, Google him. You'll find out all kinds of stuff that he did, and even more than we were even to delve into today. Just
fascinating
guy and a brilliant designer. Still racing his Corvette. Still has his Ferrari Dino.
Oh, we forgot to ask you what his daily driver is.
Well, we got to have him back.
We got to have him back then. That solves it right there. We'll have to have him back.
Right.
So, where do we sell cars this past week, guys? How about...
Here we go.
Chula Vista, California, Westchester, Pennsylvania, Martinsburg, West Virginia, Leesport, Pennsylvania, Las Vegas, Nevada, Mooresville, Pennsylvania, Chesapeake City, Maryland, Allentown, Pennsylvania, Hamburg, Pennsylvania, Westfield, New Jersey, Stewart, Florida, ding ding, Huntington Beach, California, Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, Catonsville, Maryland, Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey, Stonewall, Texas, Lacombe, Louisiana, Saratoga Springs, New York, Toledo, Ohio, Chandler, Arizona, Sinking Spring, Pennsylvania, and Adamstown, Pennsylvania.
I know.
Golly.
That's great.
Kind of a busy week for us.
It's a bunch.
And the consignments finally are rolling in. Yeah, we're about 900 and something in inventory, and we'll be over 1,000 probably in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, great.
We've got our auction coming up September the 19th at 11 a.m. You can go online and register to bid either by in person, register to bid for in person or online, or telephone bid. So there's 3 different ways. Online will be through proxy bid and Bid Wrangler, and then telephone, you'll talk to one of our guys here and they'll bid on your behalf while you're on the phone. And in person, you just raise your paddle or your badge or whatever it is, or your hand. And
some sound effects from the last auction, I guess.
Yes.
Here at Classic Auto Mall.
So new arrivals that we have this week. How about the 1929 Model A Phaeton, Bonnie gray and black over saddle. 6,681 actual miles. That's what it says.
That's what it says.
We don't know for sure, but what it says on the title, what it says on the odometer, shows that it's 6,681 miles. It's been restored. And you say, well, why would you restore a car with 6,600 miles on it? Well, because fading, time, all that kind of stuff. Mice.
Sun.
Water. Things pile on top of it. Water and more water. Flooding. Any of those things. So this thing's really, really stunningly restored.
Beautiful.
And a great parade car, because what says classic car more than a 29 Ford Model A?
Not much.
How about the 1968 Buick Skylark custom hardtop, burnished saddle over ivory and saddle, correct 350 cubic inch V8, correct automatic transmission, luxury and muscle. is what we like to say.
Yeah, great car. My parents had a '68 LeSabre, and it's the exact same color. So
Yeah.
it's really brown was in.
Brown was very in. And this one has the Protecto plate, which was the little thing that came. There was a booklet that came. You got your owner's manual, and then there was another little booklet, a smaller booklet that had a metal plate in the back of it, and that would be the warranty plate, they called it, but they called it the Protecto plate. It had the serial number or the VIN number of the car, and then the serial number of the engine, and then some of the other pertinent information on it. And having one of those really can identify if the car was, what you're looking at is the way it was built when it came off the factory, meaning it had the same engine, same drivetrain, if you will. Features and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, I think the dealerships, too, had like the old credit card thing.
Yeah.
They would zip it across, and it would go through a carbon paper, so it would like imprint it on their paperwork.
Yeah, just like a credit card, like you said, and that would be knowing. I guess they would send that off to the manufacturer and tell them that we did work on this car, and therefore you owe us money. It's not our fault you built a car that had a problem.
That's right.
We needed to fix. So, their new arrival, the 1990 Nissan 300ZX Coupe, azure blue over dark blue, one owner car, garage kept, 99,600 miles. You think he stopped and went, I'm not going over.
That's right. I'm going to sell it before 100,000 miles.
99.6. We got to sell it now.
Yep.
It's funny how people get that in their head. I did that with one of my wife's cars, and it had 4,980 miles on it when we bought it. And I'm like, I don't want to drive it. She goes, then what the heck did we buy it for?
Right.
What's the point? Yeah. I go, well, she goes, it's just a number.
As a dealer, I would do that at the auction. It's like, I can't go over 50,000.
Yeah, you can't go over the certain mileage.
And then once you get over 100,000, all bets are off. Who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. So other new arrivals, the 1967 Austin-Healey 3000 Mark III Roadster, British Racing green over black, restored and improved.
Yes.
So there was some liberties taken with this one.
Yeah, so quite a bit of money put into the restoration of this vehicle, so it's ready to go.
Yeah, 177.7 cubic. Don't forget the 0.7.
That's right.
0.7 cubic inch inline 6-cylinder, 4-speed manual transmission with overdrive. We had it.
That's right.
And a splendid driver. Splendid.
It's a very nice car.
No, it is a nice car. I really like that car. Other new arrivals, the 1977 Volkswagen Super Beetle convertible, white over white and black. This one's got 39,000 actual miles on it. Flat 4-cylinder, 1,585cc engine, 4-speed manual, and a newer 1-barrel carb, which is interesting. You think a 1-barrel carb, well, that won't get it enough fuel, will it? It gets it plenty.
Yeah, right.
It does
Not
fine.
the fastest car in the world, but you didn't buy it. You didn't buy it to race.
No, and they're fun. It's fun to drive.
And it's one of 7,155 Super Beetle convertibles made that year.
Oh, wow. And, of course, the last year for the Super Beetle convertible, I guess, would have been 79, I think. I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong, podcast at classicautomall.com. Right. And last but not least, the 1971 Chevrolet Monte Carlo hardtop, Mulsanne blue over black. Great driver, 454 cubic inch V8. Not the original motor, but a nice combination. It's a good car with a good motor.
Good looking car. Good looking designs.
It really
Speaking of design.
Speaking of design that we were talking about. So anyway, back to the auction. If you go on our website and click on the auction icon on our homepage, it'll take you to the listings. It'll take you to bidder registration. If you have a car that you want to sell, you can certainly put it in the auction, albeit it has to be absolute or no reserve. What does that mean? It means whoever the high bidder is when the hammer falls owns the car at whatever price they bid. And people say, well, I don't want my car to sell for $1. Well, your car is not going to sell for $1. It's going to sell for what the market will bear. And sometimes it creates a lot more activity on a car, no reserve. But all of the cars offered, we're at about 78, I think, right now. 62 of them from one collection, 8 from another collection, 4 from another collection. Some of these are, beyond project cars. And what I mean by that is that they're beyond project cars.
Maybe just parts.
Most of them do not have titles or keys or start.
Great opportunity to get into the classic market.
But if you're looking for something for parts, sometimes the whole is better than the parts as far as buying it. Because you could take some of these cars and part them out for more money than you can sell them for as a whole car. But you ever tried to ship a bumper to California? That's not pleasant. It's not really. Or a set of wheels and tires.
On a pallet and all that stuff.
And all that.
There's a lot of military vehicles, which are very cool, and there's always a market for those. People love them.
Oh, yeah. We got some great troop carriers. And,
M37s and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, really a cool collection. So go to our website, classicautomall.com, and check out some of the available things. We've got almost all the pictures up, and we're working on the descriptions. They should be up in the next few days. And Have any questions, give us a call here. And and by the way, just so you know, our 888 number got inadvertently disconnected.
Not hacked.
Not hacked, and not because we didn't pay the bill.
Right.
So call us at 610-901-3804. Our 888 number should be back working here any day now. Of course, I get people calling me on my cell phone wondering if we're out of business, and we're not out of business. Our 888 number, we did it ourselves. We canceled. We had a bunch of toll-free numbers through our corporate company, and they went, "Oh, we're not using any of these." So just and of course,
oops.
So it turned into a 666 number. The devil took it over.
Yeah, the devil
got to get it back.
The devil went down to Georgia and took over the numbers. So when we return,
but before we go, Saturday they're giving away a car.
It's actually today. So the day you hear this or see this is this evening they're going to be giving away $40,000 credit to Classic Auto Mall from the casino across the street, Hollywood Casino, Morgantown. And what basically the thing is if you win it, you get a credit. You can either come over here and buy something for $40,000 exactly, buy something for a little less. Or you can buy something for more and just pay the difference.
Sure.
So if you wanted a $60,000 car, you only have to pay $20,000.
It's a great start, man. In fact, $40,000 is a great down payment.
Yeah, and the audio podcast will probably get posted on Thursday or Friday. So if you're in the area, I think if you haven't registered yet, if you go and you get a card and you put it in the machine, that gives you an entry into it, right?
They'll give you all the details. I have no clue about how the lime goes in the coconut, but if you go to the casino, they'll tell you how to do it. So Hollywood Casino, Morgantown, right across the street, our neighbors. When we return with the Classic Auto Mall Show, we'll have our good friend, editor of Sports Car Market Magazine, Mr. Keith Martin. He'll be joining us in just a couple minutes. We'll see you then.
The Classic Auto Mall has more than 1,000 vehicles for consignment in our huge 8-acre climate-controlled showroom. It's a real indoor mall. If you'd like to know all the advantages of buying and selling a car through consignment, the information is available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. It's easy, safe, convenient, and it doesn't matter where you are. We sell worldwide. See our huge selection of classic and collectible vehicles at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall Show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. I forgot to make a mention of something. With our guest, I forgot to ask him what his daily driver was, so I have to have him back on. And forgot to mention that yesterday, Ozzy Osbourne passed away.
He did.
After he did that concert in Birmingham, England, and raised $190 million for charity, I guess, with the pay-per-view and all that. So
all for Parkinson's.
Rest in peace, you bat-head-biting fool. Anyway, joining us this morning, once again, is our weekly segment with Keith Martin, publisher of Sports Car Market Magazine. Good morning, afternoon, evening, Keith.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Good to have you. We're all gearing up on, well, I say all, me, and not the guys, to go to Pebble Beach coming up in a couple of weeks, and we're really excited about that for our first time. And so we got a loan, a small, refinanced our house, got a little bit of a loan so we can do all the fun things that you can do out there.
If you would fly commercial instead of taking your private jet, you'd save a lot of money.
Apparently, they say it's a little cheaper that way. So, but you have to stop in Chicago on the way, and that's never fun to that.
You can shop.
Yeah, you can shop. That's what my wife asked me the other day. She goes, "Is there any moment of the day that's not planned around cars?" I go, well, no, but here is a brand new American Express Platinum card. Have fun when we're there. So it's
the thing that you'll learn in Carmel with that Platinum card is all she has to do is walk by the stores and there's a card reader and it'll automatically charge your card for whatever she happens to be looking at as she walks by the store.
I think that is so smart. That's such a good business move, right? So every week we have Keith on, for those of you who don't know, and we bring his weekly blog to life. And this week's blog is 54 going on 3. Now, what would that mean?
Well, one of my favorite cars is our 71 Jag V12 Coupe. It's got 30,000 miles on it now. And it's a tight car that's just a joy to drive. And we were thinking about that, talking about the difference between cars that once you take them apart and put them back together, it's often they're just not the same.
Right.
And this car has never been taken apart, ever. So what it means is if it's got 30,000 miles on it, that if you figure a car in 71 was averaging 10,000 miles a year, that means this is really a 3-year-old car.
Right. Yes, I see. Now I see the math. Now I understand. And it's noticeably better driving, right? I mean, it's like you just know that it drives better than a car that would normally be that old.
Well, the thing that we talked about is that when a car gets restored, it normally gets restored because it needs a restoration.
Right.
That means it's gotten into a kind of a poor state, and it's time to take it apart. I got a nice note from one of my subscribers saying that cars that have never been taken apart, all the suspension bits and things, they're all in what he calls their happy place.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to upset that happy place.
Yeah, no, and then it likes it. And so you have to be, I had one Alpha that I did a ground up on, and I had to put 5,000 miles on it before it started feeling like a car again.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that funny how it got into its groove, so to speak? And well, we always, caution people, look, if you buy a car that doesn't have a whole lot of miles on it since a complete restoration, you're going to need to drive it and sort it out. It's going to need some sorting between now and whenever. And when you buy a car that's original, there were some slight modifications you all did to the Jag, right? Some suspension pieces and things like that, but
just replacement though. The rubber bushings in the front get oil soaked in those cars,
right?
And then back in period, they said, well, we'll fix that. We'll upgrade that with polyurethane bushings.
Right.
Well, those over time crack and get brittle and shatter.
Right.
So we've done a few maintenance things, and we've upgraded the ignition system, but all the paint, all the interior, all the surfaces in that car are completely original. I've never had a car like that before.
Right, right. Well, because most of our recollections of cars back in the day are much better than they actually are if you drive one today. So if you got in a 67 GTO today, you'd go, boy, this doesn't drive quite like I remember it drove back in 67.
Well, also, Stuart, it depends. Is it a good 67 GTO?
True.
Because, that part of the problem is we get these cars and they're like semi-worn out because nobody's gone through and dealt with the suspension bushings, the steering, got the brakes adjusted right. I mean, all these things that if they were your daily driver, you'd be taken care of.
Right, because we always tell people on any car, new, old, whatever, the minute something goes wrong with it, get it fixed. Do not let it lag, because if you let it lag, more stuff's going to pile up and it's going to be worse than better.
And each time you get in the car, you'll be irritated.
Right. Well, we bought a 68 Plymouth Fury station wagon that is really, really cool. And the seat is so worn out. It must have been a big guy that rode it. I can barely see over the dashboard. So it's not a lot of fun to drive in that condition. So it's one of those things that we're going to get that seat fixed so you've got that nice firm feeling when you're sitting behind the wheel and not feel like you're this.
One of the things I've written about is that the first thing you should do when you buy a car is have the driver's seat cushion restuffed.
It's a great, I never really thought about that until I bought this wagon and thought about how important that is. It's a very uncomfortable feeling to sit in a car like that and not feel like you're in control or in a firm environment.
Yeah. No, it'll make you feel like you're in a new car.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I never thought. So we'll definitely try that. So I'll add that to the list of things that I'm doing to this car that I thought I wouldn't have to do anything to.
What I tell people when they take a car that we call that fettling it, right? When you're trying to bring it back to life.
Right.
You drive the car, you make your list. You go back to the shop. You cross 3 things off the list. You drive the car again. You make the list. The list gets shorter and shorter, but it's not a one-time deal. It's a 4 or 5 or each time, because each time you cross something else, you notice something else.
Right. Right. Or you just, if you're really paying attention to your car, then you're driving it in a manner that you're going to notice things that are wrong with it. Listen, if you've got a car that is a manual transmission, you go through all the gears. Make sure you get all the way up to 5th or 6th or whatever it has in it. Make sure that you test all those, because sometimes you never get into 6th gear and then you find out too late that it doesn't work.
Well, since the Jag only has 3, I don't get into 6th very often.
Well, that's good to know. Not triple overdrive? There's not something like that, right? So
let me say, Stuart, that driving this car, because it is so good, it's like going back in time 50 years. Like I'm in 1971 in a 2-year-old car. It handles good. It's got lots of power. It makes good. 71 was a good year because they didn't have any smog on them or noticeable smog. When you're behind the wheel of a classic car, you look at the gauges all spread out in front of you, the long hood of the car. And it's a time machine.
It absolutely is. And of course, your reference point in 73, when you drove a 2-year-old car, a 71, you didn't have, you didn't have a new car to compare it to. You didn't have a 2025 Escalade or Mercedes S-Class or whatever it is you happen to be driving. And it was all relative.
It was the one. I mean, this was Jaguar's supercar.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can remember seeing Jaguars from 71 to 74 and thinking, wow. Even the XKEs of that era, even with those big, butt ugly, big rubber bumpers on the front fender, or front bumper, it didn't bother me for some reason. I don't know why.
It was, you were just living through the era. It just was what it was.
Right. Well, yeah. And I always tell people that another good thing to look at when you buy a car, especially if you're buying a car at an auction, if the car is got a full tank of gas. Because if it's got a full tank of gas, then generally that's a person that has kept that car maintained, fluids properly changed, would never let it get beyond, below a half a tank at worst, and about 3/4 of a tank more than likely. And it just tells you a lot about the ownership of the car and the type of person that owned it.
I agree with that. And also you look under the hood, you look to see how do the hose clamps and things like that look, because if they're wrong, then what else is wrong that you can't see?
Yeah, and that's the thing that, when people look at a car to purchase, they set a baseline of what they would pay for this car, and then what they're looking for is deductions. Okay, so I like this car. Well, it needs tires. Well, let's take off 800 probably one tire anymore. Let's take off X amount. The turn signal doesn't work. Let's take off something for that. And the thing that's interesting used to be that when you sold a classic car, nobody really cared if the blinkers worked. Nobody cared about the taillights. Nobody cared about the interior light or the clock. Now all that's become very important to people.
Well, you know what? The Bring a Trailer has what they call their partners.
Right.
The specialty dealers that they deal directly with.
Sure.
And I know some of those guys. And what they do, like when they take my car, the guys here, 911R, for instance, they fix everything that they want to fit. They don't ask me.
Right.
And it's $200 an hour.
Right.
but because they want the car to leave them blinkers working,
sure,
washer bag full, brake fluid change. So they're setting a standard so that when you buy a car from them, in theory, they have gone through and done everything that needs to be done. And it's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. And everything that needs to be done at that particular time and moment, because between the time that the hammer falls and you own it and you get the car, something else could have gone wrong.
Something else will go wrong.
Yeah, well, let me rephrase that. Something will go wrong. There you go. Sorry.
Like I said to you, Stuart, we talked about last week that with the difference between driving an old car and a new car on these things, with an old car, it's going to screw you at some point.
It's going to leave you stranded. That's absolutely.
It's just waiting there thinking, okay, when shall the clutch go out? Let me think. Okay. Let's get the brake pedal all the way to the floor. Oh, yeah, won't that be fun?
That's a good way to leave people on this note, Keith. I think that we had the perfect ending to another fantastic segment on the Classic Auto Mall Show. Thank you so much for being on. Sorry we won't see you in Monterey, but we'll catch you in 2 weeks from now. We won't have a show next week, so we'll catch you in 2 weeks here on the Classic Auto Mall Show.
It's always great being here, Stuart. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Take care.
Here's a special offer from Sports Car Market Magazine. Get a 6-month subscription for just $19.95 by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive and the number 6. That's sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. If you're a buyer, a seller, or just general classic car enthusiast, publisher Keith Martin says,
we've been around almost 40 years. It's the Wall Street Journal of the collector car world.
Activate your 6-month trial of Sports Car Market Magazine by going to sportscarmarket.com/test drive 6. Offers for a limited time. Be in the know with Sports Car Market. The Classic Auto Mall Show with their host, Stuart Howden, executive producer, Steve Sethier, produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ, video editor, Randy Lammy. Available on ClassicAutomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band. For tour dates, contact, and stuff, visit PatTravers.com. Produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.